A minute early.
Hmm. Okie dokie. We are streaming live. Hello, everybody.
Good morning.
Morning, good morning. Welcome to Monday Morning Chats.
This week seems to have zoomed by.
It has. It has.
Mm.
I'm so pleased that we decided to do this on a Monday because it gives me something to be excited about, like straight up.
Straight up. Me too. Me too. It's a nice way to just set things for the week.
Hmm.
So
Definitely.
I believe today we're talking about self-care for traversing change, which is a topic that dropped in for you this week.
Yeah. I think that it's really useful to have tools or go-to behaviors that we can implement into our life when things get tough. And if we practice these things when things aren't tough, then they kick in when things are more challenging and become like a comfort or a safety blanket for us to lean into. Um, yeah, when we're up leveling. Do you want to go into what we mean by that term of like change or um, up leveling? What other words do we use
Yeah.
for that process?
Growth. Yeah, yeah, absolutely. It's a really good point, and I'm glad, yeah, we're doing that first up because when I was reflecting on this topic, there were a whole bunch of different change points that occurred to me, and I think so. Yes, we're referring to something kind of more specific with the up leveling. Um, and I guess where my mind goes overall first is often change is outside of our control. So it may have been an adverse event that has kind of knocked us off our feet and restructured things without us going after it. So that can be incredibly disorienting. And and so then what's the process that we take ourselves through to essentially smoothen that ride as much as possible in knowing that you're absolutely going through a wave. So adverse events is one that I think worth mentioning. Um, and then change also occurs typically when we get bored. So whatever, you know, so
That's
whatever.
why I'm changing so much all the time.
Yeah, yeah, that is. Because if we've gotten bored, it means that we're looking for growth. Because as soon as your world has too much certainty or too much known, we're compelled to go out and expand and create a new engagement. So so what that looks like, and often when people kind of go, okay, I'm ready to do this, there's a certain adrenaline and compulsion forward, and and then there's obviously a dip that goes with that because any growth requires a letting go and becoming of the next evolution of you. So for me, I guess that's what we're referring to when we say up leveling. It's the knowledge of what growth and expansion actually looks and feels like, and then preparing ourselves through those daily practices, and then also surrendering to that.
Mm, yeah, definitely. And I'm a great believer in if we don't implement the change or learn from the lessons, then the universe kind of takes over and pushes us in that direction anyway. So, however that comes about,
Yes.
um, yeah, we need to be prepared and ready and have some ways of meeting the challenge.
Mm, mm. Yeah, absolutely. And and I guess when I was reflecting on those previous change points in my life and essentially what the associated grief was related to is it comes back to expectations. Because what are my expectations of self in how I'm supposed to be able to cope or what my world is supposed to look like Two, what are my expectations of others? Because the other change point is kind of goes back to something that we touched on a couple of weeks ago in terms of how other people treat us. So have we found ourselves in an environment where there's some kind of change or alter to the dynamic or status quo where we're going, okay, hang about, what is this? And has it now butted up against how I expect other people to behave? And then three, what are my expectations about the world as well, and how stable the world is? So for me, all growth will butt into those lenses about how do I define myself and how does this fit? How am I defining others? And how does this fit? And then how am I defining the world? And how does this experience fit within my definition of the world?
Yeah, that's really useful to have those frameworks. And as usual, Asha draws the map.
And then you'll take over with beautiful techniques.
Are you happy for us to move into that, talking about the techniques now? Is there anything else that you wanted to add to the change part?
I guess it is just reflecting on the fact that though those elements of discomfort will be the indicator to you that you're in new territory, or the territory that you're in requires a letting go of old stories, old definitions, and potentially healing old wounds. So I think that it's the acknowledgement of that and going, oh, here I am, here's the indicator. And now that's the indicator to move into these techniques to help smoothen that journey, expand to allow for whatever's going on. And then, like you said, if they become daily practices or regular practices, that's where that move through the wave becomes far more graceful rather than it being a dumper.
Yeah, absolutely. Love that.
Yeah. So what would you say are your go-to strategies?
I love this bit. Okay. Firstly, I want to preface these tips and tools with whatever feels right for you, or whatever intuitively is coming into your mind. Even like as I or we speak about these things, there might be something that you feel would be right for you that's different to what I'm saying, and that's and listen to that. Listen to yourself and what you need. But even as I was sitting here before the call, just getting ready, I was coming up with different practices for myself that are right for me today. So the first thing that I wanted to talk about is physical movements and actions that you can do to calm yourself, to bring you back into your heart and out of your mind being on the treadmill. Your heart is really, really powerful in this. So what I had written down was tapping or pressing your heart space. And the other really great go-to area is the sacral, so just below your belly button. But as I was sitting here, I started doing this, so swapping hands and noticing how that feels in my body, and noticing how my mind starts to slow down and I start to come into my body. And then you might feel to change that to your solar plexus and your heart. Or if you're feeling choked up in the throat, you might want to change it to your throat and your heart. So these physical actions and anchors are really great to, and as you're watching and listening us, can you feel that our energy has dropped in? What we say, we've dropped into the space instead of being outside of ourselves. That's And all of those things, the being aware of where your attention and where your focus is.
Mm.
Is
Yeah.
it within you or is it scattered?
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. Beautiful. Um, it actually, that reminds me of some trauma training that I was participating in, and actually with dissociation, which is where people can lose contact with themselves or reality or the environment. And one of the ways to get people back into their body, which is exactly what you were just talking about, is kind of this gentle massage.
Mm.
Yeah, yeah, because yeah, and it gives it reconnects us to our body in the here and now, which is where we have agency. So these touch points, and particularly with these energetic plexus areas, that you're connecting back in to where you have the greatest amount of autonomy.
Mm.
Because I think when we're off somewhere else, we have essentially given our autonomy or power away to whatever that alternate reality is. So these really beautiful touch points of coming back to heart, throat, gut, sacral, they're reconnecting ourselves one with us in the present moment. And it also then switches on the fact that I have self-agency, which
Mm.
is huge. And that's what we need to purposefully navigate rather than getting washed away with the current.
Beautiful. When you were
Mm.
talking about giving your power away, because that's exactly what we do when we're looking outside of ourselves to distract ourselves from the pain that we're in, or outside of ourselves for the answers. Um, another really great way to bring yourself back and to actually take that power back is to say the words, I take my power back. And if you're or whatever those words are for you, and if you're doing the combination of coming back into your body and feeling where you were at physically,
Mm.
and then
Mm.
verbally claiming that energy back of, I
Mm.
take my power back and I'm bringing it back into me.
Yeah.
That's super powerful. So verbals are something that I use a lot in healings and during group meditation sessions and getting people to repeat after me.
Mm.
Um, it's a really powerful tool. And the other one that I use a lot is visualization. So you stack them, right? So you're doing these ones. You're saying, I take my power back, and you're actually tuning in and visualizing that energy coming back into your body.
Mm. Yeah, beautiful.
Um, and the other visual that I find really useful in times of change, because we're in that process of letting go, is going and having a shower or a bath, or being in the ocean, whatever water is available to you, and actually imagining the water is washing away what no longer serves you, and actually visualizing that leaving your body and going down the plug hole or out to sea or wherever. So visualization is a really powerful self-help tool.
Yeah, absolutely. Um, and then I guess to add on that, teaming the essentially the letting go, the washing away through you, and then re-energizing with new energy as well, the fresh energy to take its place. And that's really important, again, in coming back to body, is that we feel full of our energy, and that energy being essentially rejuvenated in our body. So it's the letting go and replacing of of the energy, and the water of the shower is a beautiful way, like you say, to let that go down the drain, and then also to top up with and visualize that energy then filling up from the bottom up as well, and making sure you feel really full. um yeah, they're beautiful techniques. And it's really funny because when you suggested this topic, which I love, and I think it's such a big one, um, you mentioned, and you called it simple, which which I love, and in some respects it's simple, and then in another respect it's not easy at all. And you spoke about witnessing the leaves blowing in the tree,
Mm.
which is essentially that mindfulness and coming back to that present moment. And when you brought this topic up, all I could envision was that tree standing really firm, and then the leaves blowing off of it.
Mm.
And that image has repeatedly run through my mind in entertaining this topic. And there was such beautiful symbology in all of that, in that, what is it to anchor in to the ground, allow that, that those old stories, those old wounds to kind of be taken by the earth, and then also to be rejuvenated by essentially the universal or the sun's energy down. um, and really finding that central pillar of um, internal and eternal self-knowledge to stand firmly on, even when the winds of change are around us. So for me, I really had that point of anchoring in. And the reason why I mention, it can seem so simple to witness the trees, but really it's not as easy as it sounds, is because when a lot of people come into contact with mindfulness techniques for the first time, the mind's chatter is so loud that it almost seems silly or benign to go, well, don't you know I've got this giant problem going on in my life, and you want me to sit down and watch the trees? So it's also like wrangling with the mind and some of those mind traps that are going to try and take you out of the present moment whilst you're learning and getting mastery over these skills as well.
Absolutely. And the I was thinking this morning when I was doing my meditation, I was about 5 minutes in, and I thought, I'm still thinking about, all of the things
Yeah.
that I have to think about today. And then just allowing myself to, oh yeah, that's right. I'm here to tune into the nothingness, and 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 when we practice these practices, just know that we're human, and the mind will always try to step in. It will always try to take over. So allow yourself to go through each day when you practice just the way you are in that day. So you might say, okay, I'm going to sit down and be mindful with looking at the leaves in the trees and the wind on my face and the warmth of the sun on my skin. And a few minutes later, you're out of that bliss and back into thinking. That's okay. Just bring yourself back and give yourself the gift of time for yourself to just sit and breathe, which brings us to breath work.
Yes. You go for it. You go for it.
So I absolutely am amazed at what you can achieve internally with focus on your breath. And the way that I use breath work is very, very simple and mindful. So it could be as simple as, okay, I'm going to breathe in through my nose and out through my mouth. I'm going to imagine that light and love and truth is entering my body when I breathe in, and everything that no longer serves me is leaving my body when I breathe out. And also noticing how your breath feels as it comes in your nostrils and passes your lips as it goes out. So connecting with the physical feeling of your breath as well. There's so many different breath work techniques, and you can go into breath work that you do quite full on breathing in a certain way for an extended period of time, and it can take you into a trance state and all of these things. But as a daily practice, just being mindful of your breath and how you're using it to feed your body energetically.
Mm, mm. Absolutely. Yeah, the breath is so powerful. And you really raise a good point, because when circumstances have altered our world in some kind of way, whether it is adversity strikes, or it could be a relationship breakdown, or it could be I've pursued something and it hasn't gone as I expected it to go. And we're getting all of these feelings. It's very easy to hand our power over, like we mentioned earlier, to this set of circumstances and infer something about us. As in, I'm not good enough, or I'm not worthy, or whatever it is. And when you start coming back to the breath, which at the very beginning will feel very counterintuitive, or can often feel very counterintuitive and almost annoying or griping, because it's kind of like that kind of taking your medicine. You know that it's good, you know that it works, but there's a part of you that will fight it anyway, right? So, and that's because the nervous system will have previously switched into either the fight, flight, or freeze. And the fight is there to get you to kind of overcome that. So to switch from I'm ready to go, to being back centered in my body and allowing for those moments of the breath, will feel really odd at first, or usually does. Or if you're in flight mode and you want to get the hell out of there, and then you're training your system to come back, recenter, and be still, there will also be a fight within, because the nervous system is saying the only way to get safe is to get out. Well, like we said at the very beginning, we want to come back into our body. And so the power of the breath work is actually the training and bringing it to the conscious mind that I have, that by utilizing the breath, I have great agency to change my state. And that's really, really powerful, because once you take ownership of the fact that my state is my responsibility, and I use things like the breath and practicing the breath, either to calm down or to experience those states of bliss, then you're on the pleasant side of emotions rather than the unpleasant side of emotions. And not that we discount those unpleasant sides or we immediately want to shift, because they're indicating something. So we actually want to listen to those. And the more practiced we are in these techniques, we can it's about the rapidness that you can change state to become effective again, in not discounting and in absorbing the message there. What message do I absorb? The technique, change state, and then purposefully re-engage.
Yeah, I absolutely agree with that. Because it's not that we want to move away from the discomfort. It's that we want to learn how to bring ourselves into a state where we can interpret it effectively, and we can learn the lesson and not just be reactionary with it.
mm,
Yeah.
mm. Yeah, absolutely.
And the further that we go in the journey, and we're always learning and always changing and always up leveling, the harder or the more challenging the discomfort can be,
Mhm.
because as we raise in consciousness and raise in ability within ourselves, the next challenge will come that's slightly more than the last one. um, and that's okay, because the universe doesn't throw anything at us that we're not equipped to handle, right? So you've got this. And hopefully some of today's tools and tricks will assist you in the process. The one thing that was coming to me that I didn't mention was exercise. Really, really great mindful exercise. So if you're going for a walk, you can visualize being really connected in with the earth, and having the land underneath you take away, like we're visualizing with the water, take away what no longer serves you, and drawing in from the trees around you, the beautiful, and being mindful and observing how we're all connected with everything around us. Um, yeah.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. And I think also, just for some people who may, their analyzer might be quite loud. um, the research is really catching up with a lot of these techniques as well. And as much as 10 minutes walk in nature is showing in some cases to be as effective at treating depression as medication. So there's a lot of research coming out to say these simple daily practices that can seem benign actually have tremendous efficacy, and it is really worthwhile building into not only your routine, but how you engage with the world around you, and recognizing those signs to go, okay, if in this moment, I might actually be struggling to come into my body by sitting still. So moving, getting outside, reconnecting, getting my feet on the ground, and using them as a reset. And the more you learn that you can, the quicker it then happens.
Absolutely.
Mm, mm,
What a
beautiful.
fabulous topic.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, so any questions, let us know, and any inspiration that comes through from anyone as to what you'd like to touch on, or even if you'd like us to go into more depth in something, very happy to do that as well.
Thank you for joining us on our Monday
Yeah,
morning chats, and we'll be back again next week at 9 o'clock Queensland
beautiful.
time. Sending everyone lots of love. Bye.